This is Jarrod Horak for the RunawayHorse.com. We're going to look back at the Preakness Stakes in this video. We're going to do the Jockey Club Gold Cup analysis, the next win in your in race for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and then we're going to actually do a very early preview of the Breeders' Cup Classic. But let's look back at last week's race that could have Breeders' Cup Classic implications. That was the Grade 1 Preakness Stakes at Pimlico Racecourse. That was on Saturday, October 3rd. It was the 11th race. It was for 3-year-olds, and they traveled 1 mile and 3/16 on the main track, and we had an 11-horse field. And in that race, you had your Kentucky Derby winner, Authentic, as the solid 3-2 favorite. And he wasn't able to get out there and control the pace this time. But the pace was very slow. It wasn't fast at all. But actually, it was his stablemate, Thousand Words, that was out doing the early work. And then Authentic was finally able to get the lead at the half-mile mark. But Swiss Skydiver, the filly, had a nice inside tactical trip, and Robbie Alvarado, her new rider for that race, he made a decisive inside move, and he didn't let Authentic get away like he did in the Kentucky Derby. And we mentioned it in our Kentucky Derby recap and just said when Authentic was able to get out there and control the pace, when there weren't any other speed horses there, and then when Tiz the Law made a run at him in the stretch, Authentic still had plenty left at that point, and he was able to turn away Tiz the Law and win that race. But this was a different story because early on, Thousand Words, even though they weren't going super fast, Thousand Words challenged him early, and then Authentic took the lead, and then right away, Swiss Skydiver from the inside made an inside move and went right after him and just did not let him get away like he did in the Derby. And that made all the difference. That move, that decisive move by Robbie Alvarado, was the difference in this race. And it was a nice stretch battle. Those two just battled all the way to the end, and Swiss Skydiver was able to win by a neck over Authentic. And it was almost 10 lengths back to Jesus' team in third, and that one just finished in front of Art Collector. And then Max Player tried to rally from 10th, and the best he could do was 5th, and the race really didn't set up for late runners. So the final time was solid. Just like the Kentucky Derby, we saw the raw final time there was solid, and I said in my Derby recap video that after you add in, you looked at the par times, you looked at all the other route races run at Churchill Downs, and then you took into account the track variant, that the speed figure wasn't super fast. It was solid, but not super fast. And then in the same thing in the Preakness, it was almost the exact carbon copy speed figure of the Kentucky Derby. So Authentic just ran his race again, but he wasn't able to get loose, and that was the difference between him winning and losing. Closers absolutely had no shot in this race. The pace was slow. The speed horses just kept going. They had plenty left. They were able to sprint home and finish fast because the pace was slow and they had plenty left. That just took the closers out of this race. Probably the biggest disappointment of the race was Art Collector, because Art Collector easily beat Swiss Skydiver in the Bluegrass Stakes, but then he had a minor injury and he was forced to miss the Kentucky Derby. And then in this race, maybe there was too much time off. I don't know what the deal was, but obviously we know he ran well below par because he beat Swiss Skydiver by more than 3 lengths in the Bluegrass Stakes. And in this race, he finished probably 10 lengths behind her. So he didn't even come close to duplicating that. And there was really no excuses for him because he was sitting a decent tactical trip. So with Art Collector regressing, Swiss Skydiver was able to take advantage of a nice inside trip. Excellent effort, and she's had an excellent campaign this year. She's run 9 times, 9 different racetracks. She's faced the males twice, and she ran well both times. And she's clearly going to be your 3-year-old filly champion, and maybe even more. She's still in the running for Horse of the Year. Now her next start could come in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. That's the direction they may go. So they could run in the Classic. They could run in the Distaff. The owner right now is leaning towards running Swiss Skydiver in the Distaff. Maybe that's the right move even for her to try to win Horse of the Year. She's got the possibility to win the Distaff, and then if there's an upset in the Breeders' Cup Classic, she has more than enough credentials to be Horse of the Year if that happens. Now Authentic, he blew an opportunity here to take the lead over Tiz the Law in the 3-year-old championship, but he wasn't able to get the job done. That was his second place finish this year. So now Tiz the Law's only lost once this year when he finished second in the Kentucky Derby. So now those two will meet in the Breeders' Cup Classic most likely next. And Authentic just seems like the kind of horse, we've been saying it over and over again, that when he can get out there and control the pace, he's going to be tough. When he is not able to do that in these longer races, he could be a bit vulnerable, and that was proven here. That was proven in the Santa Anita Derby. Even in the Haskell Stakes, when he barely held on that day, the Kentucky Derby, he was able to get out there and control the pace and hold on when Tiz the Law regressed. So for Authentic, if he can get out there and control the pace, he's tough. As for Swiss Skydiver, she doesn't care. She just runs her race every time. She's got early pressing speed, and she just tries hard all the way to the end in all of her races, and she's so consistent, and she's just run so many times with so many different tracks. You keep thinking maybe she's going to get tired, but no, she just keeps on going, and she ran a great race here with a great ride to beat Authentic in this race. So horses like Max Player never had a shot from off the pace, and that's multiple times he's had that excuse. He really does need some pace in front of him, and if he can ever get it, maybe he could win one of these races or at least hit the board, but he just keeps not getting the right setups in his races. So that's the story there. Let's now jump forward and look at the Jockey Club Gold Cup, the next winning you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and that'll be Saturday, October 10th, 2020 at Belmont Park, the 9th race, the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup for 3-year-olds and up, 1.25 miles on the main track. Scheduled post time 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time, and we have a short field in here, and we have some interesting 3-year-olds to talk about, beginning with number 1, Happy Saver. This one is 2-1 morning line for Todd Pletcher. Irad Ortiz Jr. is going to ride. Excellent pedigree here. Super Saver, the sire. A Distorted Humor, the dam sire. Happy Week is the dam on this one, and this one's 3 for 3. 7 furlong debut, never easy to win in the debut at 7 furlongs. Did just that at Belmont Park on June 20th. Won easily by 5 lengths, tracking the pace. Stretched out from 7 furlongs to 9 furlongs, second time out at Saratoga. And in that race against 3-year-old and up company, stalked the pace, pulled well clear to win by 4 lengths. Third career start, Federico Tessio Stakes. It was a win and you're in for the Preakness Stakes. And this one did win that race. I think that was their original intention, was to win the Tessio and then go to the Preakness, and he stuck the pace that day. Monday Morning QB was completely controlling the pace. Happy Saver sat a nice tactical trip and was able to pull clear and win by 1.25 lengths in that 6-horse field, and the top 2 were well clear of the rest. But they talked about it. During the workouts leading up to the Preakness, they just decided they didn't want to go and run in the Preakness, maybe facing just more experienced horses like Swiss Skydiver and Authentic with tactical speed, and they were both sharp. And even Art Collector had a nice winning streak going into that one. They just didn't feel like they wanted to face all of those horses at Pimlico, an 11-horse field, and if Happy Saver would have run, it would have been a 12-horse field. So this race, short field against older though, but not a lot of depth to this race. So he's got that good tactical speed. This race doesn't have any pace, so I would not be surprised if he improved and was able to win this race. But he is going to have to improve, but he has plenty of upside. He's only run 3 times. The 2, Prioritize. This one, solid veteran, a 5-year-old gelding, 14 starts, 4 wins, 2 seconds, and 3/3. He's run 4 times on fast dirt, 2 wins, a second and a third, 1 time on a wet track, and he finished second in that race. And he's run once at Belmont Park with a 2nd place finish. And then once at this distance, last time out, the Grade 1 Woodward, didn't get any pace help there. He was stalking in 4th, about 2 lengths back for about half the race. And then he started to drop back a bit, and then he came again at the end and finished 3rd, beating a total of 3 lengths. Not a bad effort. I'm concerned about his lack of speed, but Luis Saez likes to get horses involved early. That's his new rider, and maybe he can push this one and keep him a little bit closer to the pace. He's probably going to have to, because there's really no pace in this race. The 3, Name Changer, 20-1 morning line, and this one, a veteran 7-year-old horse with 21 starts, 8 wins, 2 seconds, and 6/3. He's only run once at Belmont and once at this distance, and he did not come in. But I think this distance isn't terrible for him. I think the Salvatore Mile last time, a Grade 3 at Monmouth Park, was too short for him. In that 1 mile race, he was wide early from the outside post. He finished an even 4th. Now he wants to go a little bit longer. He won the Queens County at Aqueduct in 2018 at 1 mile and an 1/8. So 1.25 miles, I think, is within range. I think he's going to be stalking the pace. I just don't think he's good enough to win a race like this. The 4, Tacitus, is your even money favorite, and he's going to vie for favoritism with Happy Saver the 1, but Tacitus will certainly be the favorite in this race. He's a pretty solid 4-year-old. 13 starts, 4 wins, 4 seconds, and 2/3. He's almost banked $3 million in his career. He's run 5 times at 1.25 miles, and he's finished in the top 3 in all 5. And he likes Belmont Park. He won the Suburban earlier this year easily. Now he's won, a lot of people remember him from the Triple Crown Trail last year. He won the Wood Memorial, his final Kentucky Derby prep, and then in the Kentucky Derby he finished 4th. He was placed 3rd through disqualification. And then the Belmont Stakes, I made him my top pick in the Belmont Stakes of 2019. In that race he had post 10, and outside lanes weren't any good. The inside lanes were golden, and Sir Winston was able to ride the inside. Tacitus was hung out to dry from the outside post, and he missed by a length, finishing 2nd. The Jim Dandy Stakes, again, if you watch my videos, you know I picked him in that one too. That day, stumbled at the start. He blew his opportunity to be up on the pace. Tax was able to get out there and control the pace and hold on. Tacitus was charging late, but he could not get the job done. Then in the Travers Stakes in his next start, they put blinkers on because they were tired of him coming from off the pace and falling short. And in the Travers, he dueled on the lead, and he ended up finishing 2nd behind Code of Honor. So he did all the pace dirty work that day, and he hung in there throughout, and he finished 2nd. The Jockey Club Gold Cup of 2019 was his final start last year as a 3-year-old, and Vino Rosso won that one. Code of Honor was 2nd, Tacitus was 3rd. Vino Rosso came back and won the Breeders' Cup Classic. They shipped him to overseas for the Saudi Cup. For his first start this year, he finished 5th in a 14-horse field. Not a bad effort. His first start back in the U.S., the Oaklawn Handicap, probably needed that race, and he ended up rallying to finish 4th. They put blinkers back on in the Suburban. I mentioned that one, 1.25 miles at Belmont against this kind of company. It was a grade 2, but it was very similar to the quality of this field. And in that race on July 4th, he just ran off the screen. He stalked the pace, took over, won by almost 9 lengths. He was the heavy favorite last time in the grade 1 Woodward at 1.25 miles at Saratoga. In that race, a Global Campaign got out there, controlled the pace. Tacitus stalked from 2nd, could not run him down, but he was 2nd best there. So now in this race, he should be up on the pace, and he's a solid win contender. Finally, number 5, Mystic Guide, is one that I like. He's a 3-year-old. I've always liked him. I'm not picking him on top in here, but I've always liked this one. Go Sapper the sire, AP Indy the dam sire. Music Note the dam on this one. This is a Godolphin runner. Ran well in all 5 starts. 2 wins, a 2nd, and 2/3. Improving a 3-year-old and an unraced 2-year-old as well. And all the damage was done this year. Broke the maiden, stretching out in distance, 2nd time out at Fairgrounds. And then entry-level allowance race at Belmont Park on June 4th. Tap It to Win ran that fast race and controlled the pace. Mystic Guide was 2nd. Country Grammar was 3rd. Then in the Peter Pan, I picked him on top that day. He fell way too far behind. Country Grammar won that one. Caro was 2nd. Mystic Guide, best of the rest, in 3rd. They put blinkers on last time, and I picked him on top in the Jim Dandy Stakes at 1 mile and 1/8. And he rallied from last, but he wasn't as far behind as he was in the Peter Pan, and he was able to win by 3/4 of a length. So he's improving. He's going to have to run much better. And for him, I think the distance is not really going to be a big issue. It's just there's just not a lot of pace in this race, and that's the big thing about this race. So the interesting thing is which horse is going to be the pace setter. Happy Saver from the inside, are they going to go, or are they going to go with Tacitus and try the same tactics that they did in the Travers Stakes? Maybe that's what they try to do. Jose Ortiz got back aboard Tacitus last time, and maybe he's going to be a bit more aggressive because he knows he let Global Campaign steal that one, and they could have easily gone on and tried to challenge that one. So if you look at the workout pattern for Tacitus, go back to the July 4th Suburban, and prior to the Suburban, on June 28th at Belmont Park, he worked 4 furlongs in 46 and 4. That was a bullet work, best of 45. 6 days later, he runs off the screen in the Suburban. And he hasn't had a bullet workout since then, but now October 4th at Belmont Park, 4 furlongs, 47 and 1, best of 77 bullet workout, 6 days before the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So he's got that same workout pattern that he had before. I think they want to try to get aggressive with him. I'd like to see them try to get him out to the lead. I'm going to pick Tacitus as my top choice. I like Happy Saver. I think he has a good shot in here, but he has never run in a graded race. This is his longest race yet. He has a lot of upside, but just based on the value, he's going to be 2-1. I know Tacitus is the favorite, but sometimes just because a horse is the second choice doesn't mean that they're going to offer a lot of value. I just think Tacitus is better than these. I think he's going to do the same thing he did in the Suburban. He may not win by that many lengths, but I'm expecting him to win a race like this. This is the easiest spot he's ever going to have to win a grade 1. If he's ever going to win a grade 1, this is going to be the spot. So let's quickly now look ahead to the the Breeders' Cup Classic and see some of the horses that could run in the Classic. I won't mention all of them, but we'll mention some. And as we get closer to the race, obviously I'll do a video and talk about the horses that I think can win the Classic. But Jesus' team is one that could end up in the Classic or the Dirt Mile. He was third, best of the rest in third. He didn't get a lot of help pace standpoint in that Preakness, but he would have to really improve. He seems to be a cut below. I said that in the Preakness, and he didn't finish close to the top two. And maybe the Dirt Mile would be a better spot for him because I don't think he's going to get better as distances increase. Higher Power is listed as a possibility for John Sadler. This one just hasn't been in good a form since he won the Pacific Classic last year. He was third in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Hasn't been as sharp this year. Global Campaign, he's got speed. Don't know if he wants to go 1.25 miles. When he can't control the pace, if he can get out there and control the pace, he can be dangerous. But when you have other horses like Authentic and Tis the Law and some others that have speed, I just don't know how he's going to be able to last 1.25 miles against that kind of company. But obviously he's getting better, and right now he's better than ever. Now Tacitus is possible for the Classic. He's going to have to really do something and run a strong speed figure if I'm going to consider him in the Classic. It's one thing picking him in the Jockey Club Gold Cup against Happy Saver. It's another thing picking him in the Classic against some of the horses this year. It looks like a pretty loaded Classic. A Code of Honor. Maybe they're going to stretch him back out to 1.25 miles. I mentioned he was second in the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year, and he won the Travers. He just finished second in the Kelso 1-turn mile at Belmont Park. So Code of Honor is one that I think he would appreciate extra distance. I just don't know if he's up to the kind of form that he was last year when he was running really well as a 3-year-old. His 4-year-old campaign's been a bit disappointing. Hasn't been awful, but he hasn't improved like a lot of people thought he would. Kind of like Tacitus. We were expecting Tacitus to improve to age 4, and he did win a Grade 2 race, but not, didn't do as much as I thought he would do. Art Collector, maybe here, maybe the Dirt Mile. I'm thinking maybe the Dirt Mile could be the right spot for him. He's one that obviously has a lot of talent. Just did not run his race in the Preakness Stakes. He wasn't hurt by the pace. He just did not run well. And don't know if it was the time off or whatever. We'll have to see how he works out heading forward. But Art Collector could be one that's interesting, especially if he goes for the Dirt Mile. By My Standards has been pretty good this year, and he would be a solid threat, probably stalking the pace. Authentic, we talked about him in the Preakness and in my other videos. Good speed. When he can get out there and control the pace, he's dangerous. Improbable has been excellent for Bob Baffert this year. He's one that I liked during his 3-year-old season, but he just couldn't get over the hump at 1.125 miles, 1.25 miles. Those distances, he just struggled as a 3-year-old. But now this year, he's much more mature. He's faster. He's a much better horse. He looked good in his final prep for this race at Santa Anita in the Awesome Again, where he rallied from off the pace. He got a lot of pace help that day, but Improbable has been excellent. He's very versatile. He can set the pace if it's slow. He can stalk the pace. He can come from well off the pace like he did last time. So he's a dangerous threat, obviously, in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and he's a solid contender for Horse of the Year. If he would win the Classic, he's Horse of the Year most likely. Tom's d'Etat, he's been solid in all these stakes races. I just don't know how he's going to react to some of this tougher company like Improbable at 1.25 miles, facing all of these good up-and-coming 3-year-olds as well. But Tom's d'Etat is a solid horse. Maximum Security, I think he was probably better last year when Jason Service had him. Everybody knows about Jason Service getting in trouble for drug issues. I don't know what he was giving Maximum Security, but now he's in the Bob Baffert barn, and he's just not running as fast as he was when he was in the Jason Service barn. Now his 3 efforts for Baffert weren't bad. The San Diego handicap, he ended up finishing first by a nose. He just did get up and win that race over Midcourt, who was controlling the pace, but his speed figure wasn't great. And then in the Pacific Classic, they just handed it to him on a silver platter. They let him completely control the pace. And then last time in the Awesome Again, he stalked outside, and he had no answer for Improbable in the stretch. Finally, Tis the Law is the other horse that could end up running and they're pointing to the Classic. He ran second in the Kentucky Derby. He obviously regressed if you look at his Travers speed figure. He did not run the same speed figure in the Kentucky Derby. He regressed a few points. And then after the Derby, it took him a while to get back his energy level. He didn't have a lot of energy, and they decided we're not going to run him in the Preakness. He just wasn't ready yet. And then recently he uncorked a strong 5 furlong bullet in 57 and change. So he seems to be back to the energy level that they want. He seems to do his best work when they give him plenty of time between starts. And between the Travers and the Kentucky Derby, it was only 4 weeks. It would have been another 4 weeks to the Preakness. And he just didn't have that same energy level in the Derby. And for him, I think if he can get back to his form for the Travers Stakes, he's a serious win contender. He's got that good tactical speed. And Tiz the Law is right now your top 3-year-old in the country. If he finishes in front of Authentic, he's going to win the 3-year-old title. He could win Horse of the Year if he ends up winning the Classic. And then Swiss Skydiver could show up in this race. It's possible, but I think that right now they're leaning towards running her in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. So that's a very early look at the Breeders' Cup Classic, and I'll be back. After we get the pre-entries, I'll start to get a more serious look at the Classic. We'll know if there's any overseas runners coming in. There's a couple listed as possible. We're going to see if they end up coming over or not before I talk about them. And obviously some horses may drop out. We'll have to see how it all works out. But the Breeders' Cup's coming up November 6th and 7th at Keeneland. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and make some comments in the comment section. Who do you like in the Jockey Club Gold Cup? What did you think of the Preakness? And who do you like very early in the Breeders' Cup Classic? If I'm looking at it right now, the 2 horses that I think are the most likely winners, Improbable and Tiz the Law, but I'm definitely not going to make any kind of selections this early. We don't even know the field or anything. But they, I think, are the 2 most likely winners of the Breeders' Cup Classic. And that will wrap up this week's video. Until next week, good luck at the races.